All right, I wanted you to tell of two flags outside. It's hard to make out outside the Capitol, where the flag remains at half staff, outside the White House, where it's returned to full staff. Now, a lot of people are giving President Trump some heat here because he has quickly returned the flag, or we're told on his orders, returned the flag to full staff. But policy is technically that a flag can be at half staff on the day of a noted American's death and the next day as well. And after that, it can return to full staff. But now we're hearing from Mitch McConnell and Chuck Schumer. They want to continue to keep the flag at half staff through this week. That is normally the policy that is in place through a funeral and arrangements at the National Cathedral and, of course, Lincoln State at the Capitol, as will Senator McCain, as this week concludes with his ultimate burial at the Navy Academy at Annapolis. But keeping track of that and perceived slights and otherwise to former Reagan Assistant Press Secretary Mark Weinberg, technically the president, Mark, is doing what you do. But a lot of people are noting you didn't issue a White House proclamation. You issued a tweet extending your condolences, but nothing more. What do you think?
I don't think much of it. I think it's about as ungracious as you can get. The president could easily have issued a proclamation to keep the flag lower for longer, and he should have. And the tweet, you know, there's a story out that there was a very gracious statement drafted for the president to send out when Senator McCain passed away, and he vetoed it, instead issuing a terse two-sentence tweet, and everybody's concerned about that. But it seems to me the bigger story here is who in the White House would leak such a story to make the president look bad. That speaks volumes about what is going on in the Trump White House.
You know, it's no mystery the two of them did not get along. And you know where things start. Of course, everyone remembers infamously the president's comments that John McCain wasn't a hero. He preferred that his heroes not be captured. And this was a man who got multiple deferments during the Vietnam War. But it just doesn't look good. It doesn't look presidential.
It doesn't. And Trump is fond of saying, well, I can be presidential if I want. And my answer is, well, then please do. He delights in doing the opposite, and phrases like dignity of the office and rising to the occasion don't seem to resonate much in this Oval Office.
But it bugs you that he uses the flag then to make the point?
He's essentially used a flag he claims he loves to insult a war hero, and that's just wrong.
All right, so it's not enough for you to see it at half staff outside the White House for a day and a half?
It should be at half staff until Senator McCain is laid to rest.
All right, and that is normally what for Ronald Reagan, when figures of note have passed away, others since Ronald Reagan, that has been the normal procedure.
Yes, and if
right?
the president is saying, well, gosh, I didn't know that, he does now. And right. He could easily have issued an order in the past 3, 4, 5 hours. If the staff served him poorly by not having a proclamation ready, he could have ordered one and righted this, but he didn't.
All right. You know, his poll numbers, nevertheless, and this is obviously, the passing of Senator McCain, have ticked up a little bit. It could be the economy, it could be the markets, it could be both. But this was in the face of all these investigations and now some of his top lieutenants who could be looking at a lot of jail time. So does that surprise you?
A little bit. I mean, I think his core is strong as can be, and people come and go. But there's a lesson here in the whole Michael Cohen thing, which is, I think if a person needs a fixer, maybe they're not a good candidate for president.
But it doesn't mean that they're impeachable.
Well, that's a legal thing. Anybody's impeachable. That's up to Congress. There are many ways to resolve this. That's a big step. It may not be inappropriate. Let's see where the facts come out in a few weeks or a few months. But
I was thinking of you, though, because, I mean, in Ronald Reagan's case, probably the most wrenching part of his presidency was, not to say nothing of when he was shot, but, I mean, years later, on the waning last year when he was in office, the Iran-Contra investigation.
Right.
Begrudgingly, some would say too late. The president addressed that to the nation, said it was on him, it was his responsibility. Do you want to see anything like that on the part of this president? Not that there's any proven culpability, but there are some inconsistencies here. He has clearly lied on a number of issues. Now, that might not be to the point of being impeachable or worse. But your thoughts on how he should handle this? He
should level with the American people. I'm not even sure he knows what's true and what isn't. He's told so many lies. But assuming he does, he should sit down and level with the American people. The problem is, The truth will not serve him well. The facts are not on his side. I don't think he will help himself if he comes clean. He clearly has some things to hide.
But whether he does or not, one thing I hear a lot from people, and a lot of his devotees and fans, and quite a few email me, you might be surprised. they say to a man or woman, we didn't elect a saint, but we like the heavenly results. We like what's happening in the markets. We like what's going on in the economy. We could put up with this. We knew what we got. People like Mark have got to just take a chill pill.
Well, okay.
They don't say that.
No, but I understand what they're saying. But the two are not mutually exclusive. You can have good, successful policies and be a decent, honorable person. And have we really gotten to the
point? But if you
point...
have good, decent policies,
right,
good economic policies,
successful,
and they're helping the market and they're helping the economy, does all the other stuff matter?
Yes, of course it matters. The presidency is an office that should be exemplary. The standard of conduct shouldn't be, well, it isn't illegal. They haven't found a felony yet. Is that what we really want? Or do we want a president who behaves in a way that we can point to as an example and say, that's how a president should be? The mere absence of illegality is certainly not enough. And the problem with this president is the good news that he legitimately can claim, like a humming economy, like a new trade deal with Mexico, gets completely buried by all these other problems.
Because the media obsesses on the negative, he said.
No, the media covers the stories that matter. You can't blame the press.
Ronald Reagan thought the press was a little too fixated on Iran-Contra and covered all as good.
Well, at the point, they were fixated on it, but it was such an aberration in the Reagan White House.
All right. Mark Weinberg, thank you very much. Very good seeing you.
Good to see you.
Very close to Ronald Reagan. That was then. Very different president and presidency now.